Tied to a tree, starving and helpless, a tiny Doberman puppy was left to die. His ribs showed, his cries went unheard, until fate intervened. What happened next not only saved his life, but transformed everyone who witnessed it. This isn't just a rescue story. It's a miracle of survival that don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more incredible stories. The sun was high, casting light over the quiet field, but beneath the shade of an old tree, a scene of unthinkable cruelty unfolded. A young Doberman puppy, no more than a few months old, hung weakly from a rope tied cruelly around his neck. His ribs jutted out beneath his thin skin, his belly swollen from hunger and neglect. Each shallow breath rattled through his frail body. His eyes, once full of life, now held only fear and exhaustion. He whimpered softly, the sound barely carrying through the wind, as if even his voice had been taken from him. Someone had left him there, abandoned, forgotten, discarded like he was nothing. The world moved on around him, but his tiny body trembled against the bark, clinging to life. This was not just neglect. It was a deliberate act of cruelty. And yet, his story was far from over. The forest path was still, broken only by the rustle of leaves and the distant chirp of birds. A farmer walking home from his fields paused suddenly. Faint, almost too faint to notice, came a sound. A weak, pitiful whimper carried on the breeze that at first, he thought it was the wind playing tricks, but then it came again, fragile and desperate. Curiosity tugged at him, and he followed the sound, pushing through the tall grass. Each step made the noise clearer, until his heart sank at the sight before him. There, tied cruelly against the tree, was the Doberman puppy. Its tiny body dangled, ribs sharp against skin, eyes pleading for mercy. The man froze, shocked at the cruelty he was witnessing. Anger and sorrow collided within him, but the puppy's faint cry pulled him back to reality. Kneeling quickly, he whispered, "Hang on, little one. You're not alone anymore." His hands trembled as he reached for the rope. Knowing that every second mattered, the farmer's fingers clawed at the rough rope. But it was tied cruelly tight, biting into the bark. The puppy whimpered, his frail body twitching as though each breath might be his last. Desperation surged through the man as he tugged, the fibers refusing to give way. He looked into the pup's sunken eyes that begged for help yet seemed ready to surrender. "Not today," the farmer muttered fiercely, pulling out the small pocket knife he carried for field work. His hands shook, not from weakness but from urgency, as he slid the blade against the knot. The rope finally frayed, snapping loose with a sudden release. The puppy collapsed into his arms, too weak to even struggle. The farmer pressed the trembling body to his chest, whispering words of comfort. "You're safe now. I've got you." But as he felt the faint, uneven heartbeat beneath his palm, a new fear struck him. He had freed the puppy, yes, but was he already too late? The farmer cradled the limp puppy against his chest, feeling the shallow rise and fall of its frail body. Each breath was a battle, each heartbeat weaker than the last. Panic surged through him, but he steadied his shaking hands. If he lost control now, the little one would not survive. That he ran as fast as his legs would carry him, his boots pounding against the dirt path. Dust kicked up behind him, but all he heard was the faint wheeze of the puppy pressed against his shirt. "Hold on, boy. Just hold on," he whispered again and again, as if his voice alone could keep the flame of life burning. Reaching his farmhouse, he rushed inside, placing the pup gently on a blanket. He fetched water, carefully dripping it against the cracked lips, then wrapped the trembling body in cloth for warmth. But he knew this was not enough. The puppy needed more. Without wasting another second, he gathered him up again, setting off toward the village vet. Time was slipping away, and every heartbeat mattered. The vet's eyes widened at the frail puppy as the farmer placed him gently on the table. "He's critically weak," she murmured, immediately preparing fluids. Tiny veins were hard to find, but her steady hands worked quickly, giving the puppy a fragile thread of hope. For hours, it was uncertain if he would make it. His breathing faltered, his body shook with exhaustion. But beneath the weight of his suffering, there was still a spark, a stubborn will to live. The farmer stayed by his side the entire night, whispering, "You're safe now. Fight with me." Days passed, and the puppy slowly began to respond. His eyes opened wider, his ribs still sharp, but rising with steadier breaths. He drank water without help, then nibbled at soft food for the first time. The farmer smiled through tears when he saw the pup wag his tail faintly, a flicker of joy amid pain. Every small step forward was a victory. Each moment of progress felt like a miracle. The puppy who had been left to die was no longer slipping away. He was learning, piece by piece, how to live again. The weeks that followed were filled with cautious steps and tender moments. The puppy, once too weak to stand, began wobbling on his thin legs. Every attempt was clumsy, but the farmer cheered him on as though each step were a triumph. "That's it, boy," he whispered, his voice soft with pride. At first, the pup flinched at sudden movements, shrinking back with wide, fearful eyes. But slowly, he began to trust the gentle hands that fed him, the soothing voice that never shouted, the steady presence that never left. One night, instead of curling away in the corner, the Doberman pup crawled into the crook of the farmer's arm and fell asleep. That simple gesture marked the beginning of something deeper. Soon, the puppy followed him everywhere, across fields, to the barn, even waiting patiently outside the farmhouse door. His tail wagged whenever he heard the farmer's voice, his once broken spirit now glowing with new life. They were no longer rescuer and rescued. They were companions, bound by something unspoken. In saving the puppy's life, the farmer had found something too, a loyal friend who filled the emptiness of his quiet days with warmth and devotion. Months passed, and the frail, trembling puppy who once clung to life became unrecognizable. His ribs no longer showed. Instead, sleek muscles rippled beneath a glossy black and tan coat. His eyes, once clouded with fear, now sparkled with energy and confidence. The timid whimpers had turned into proud barks that echoed across the fields. Neighbors who had once pitied the farmer for taking in a dying stray now stopped in awe. They watched as the Doberman ran gracefully through the meadows, his powerful legs carrying him with speed and strength. Children pointed in wonder, whispering that he looked like a completely different dog. The farmer, however, saw more than just the transformation of body. He saw the miracle of resilience, the living proof that love and care could turn despair into strength. Every time the Doberman leaned against his leg or wagged his tail, it reminded him of the night he had heard that faint cry. What was once a forgotten life had blossomed into a symbol of hope. The puppy left to die had not only survived, he had become a guardian, a companion, and a second chance at happiness. On quiet evenings, the farmer often sat on his porch, the Doberman resting faithfully at his feet, looking at the strong, noble dog beside him. He found it hard to believe this was the same fragile puppy he had once cut free from a rope. The memory of that cruel abandonment never faded, but it no longer defined the dog's story. What mattered now was the bond they had built, a bond born not from blood, but from compassion and survival. The farmer had given the puppy life, and in return, the Doberman had given him unwavering loyalty and love. Their journey was a reminder. Cruelty destroys, but kindness rebuilds. One act of compassion can turn despair into hope. And sometimes, saving a life doesn't just change theirs, it changes yours forever.